Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Cecil County Council Work Session meeting of June 25th of 2013. The first item on our agenda is the approval of council closed session meeting minutes for June 4th. Are there any corrections or additions to the June 4th council closed session meeting minutes? If there are none, may I have a motion to approve?
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Okay, there's been a first and a second to approve the June 4th council closed session meeting minutes. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The meeting minutes have been approved. The next meeting minutes are for June 18th of 2013 for the council's regular scheduled work session. You have a copy in front of you. Are there any meeting minutes amendments, corrections, or additions? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the June 18th council work session meeting minutes for June 18th?
I move for approval of the council work session meeting of June 18th.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the June 18th council work session meeting minutes. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. The June 18th, 2013 council meeting minutes are hereby approved. The second item on our agenda is a recognition of several public works employees, and I'd like to call the council and the county executive over to the side, please.
We have all you guys join us, please. Charlie, you too. Jeff and Dave, do you want to join us as well? It's, a lot of times we hear about, certainly public schools and public safety, but not always a lot about public works. And we have an opportunity here today to recognize some of the stars in our public works department, and it's always a pleasure to be able to talk about what you guys do. When Director Flanagan let me know about your awards that you'd received and how you've been recognized, some of those terms and what you've been recognized for, I'd never heard of before, honestly. So I'm going to kind of put you on the spot, but and I'd like you to explain a little bit about what some of these awards are. And I'm going to start, Charlie. I'm going to start with you. Charlie, you are the Equipment Rodeo Backhoe Operator. You're recognized by the American Public Works Association. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, I went to Virginia Beach to operate backhoe and had to lift a pin from one bucket and set it into another.
With the backhoe?
With the backhoe. And I did it in 2 minutes and 14 seconds. But a guy come up and beat me at the end in 2 minutes and 4 seconds. But that's pretty much.
So you got some work to do?
Yeah, I got to do it a little faster.
Okay.
But it was fun. I enjoyed it. So I held first place for about 20 people. So.
Oh, that's great. So is it to show the agility with the backhoe and operating in tournament type spaces?
It made me sitting and just had to swing the backhoe. Just had a pin with a hook on it. I had to hook into it. It takes some time to do it. There's guys there who do that. So I thought I did pretty good.
Yeah, I could say so. How long have you worked for? Yeah, Charlie.
Congratulations, Charlie. Citation of recognition to Charlie Cox in recognition of your outstanding accomplishments in achieving second place in Equipment Rodeo in operations of the backhoe for the American Public Works Association. Thank you for your hard work and dedication to your profession that helps make Cecil County a great place to live, work, and play. Thank you.
Our next person is Dawn. That's your name. But Dawn was recognized by the World Water Association as the Collection Operator Specialist of the Year. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Basically, I was nominated by the supervisor. I'm not sure what all the criteria is, but I think a lot of it, to me personally, is a team effort. You know, it might have my name on it, but you know, there's people that train me, like Jim, and you know, just everybody in collections, and including the plant operators, help to make our department efficient. And you know, by doing that, that gives us the ability to, you know, take care of additional things and be proactive. And so I'm assuming that the stuff I was able to do, instead of running around taking care of emergency after emergency, because we can be proactive instead of reactive now, gave me the ability to be nominated by the supervisor.
Tell us about the nominee.
I nominated Don for his dedication. One of the programs that we have been able to install has been a tracking system for our miles and miles of sewer mains, manholes, laterals that come out from the houses where the people's sewer discharges into our systems, our pump stations. All that had to be cataloged, gathered together, and put into our computer system so that we can have a maintenance program to keep track of that. Don has been pretty much solely responsible for gathering that information and putting it all in, as well as his dedication and high quality work and effort and concern for the county. And all of these guys here, they would go through a brick wall for me to make sure it gets done. These guys are an extreme asset to you folks as well as to the county. I would like to add also, toot their own horn a little bit, Jim also received this award 3 years ago? 2008. So we have multiple winners in our department, and hopefully we're going to go for a couple more in the future, because as Don said, it is a team effort and they all do deserve that. And as you know, as you see in the news, there's a big push on to stop sanitary sewer overflows, and that's what our main task is going forward doing. And Don's ability to put all that in the computer and get us on a maintenance schedule were the main reasons why that I nominated Don this year.
Don, it's my honor to represent Cecil County Council and the executive in honoring you with a certificate of recognition for your outstanding accomplishments in achieving Collector Operator Specialist of the Year in the Maryland Rural Water Association. Thank you for your hard work and dedication to your profession that helps make Cecil County a great place to live, work, and play. And this has been signed by all the council members and the county executive. Thank you very much.
And then we have 3 people that we are honoring again. Dawn again, and Jim Zell, and John Merlinger?
Yeah.
Merlinger. And they were honored by Miss Utility Locator of the Year. So, since you haven't had a chance to speak, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Okay. Hello. Last year, 2012, we did not receive any hits when we located the Miss Utilities for Cecil County, the sewer part of the Miss Utilities, the main lines. And we take it very seriously when we receive Miss Utility tickets that come through on the fax. We go out there and we use our tools to find the utilities and mark them with green paint. We also have a tool, GIS, which also helps us locate if we're not sure, because there's so many sewer lines in Cecil County. So if we're not sure, we go on GIS study that and we go out there and we make sure we mark it right before the contractor comes out and digs. It's very expensive when, if the contractor hits one of our sewer lines. So, the three of us, work with that, do that, almost on a daily basis.
Anything like that? No? Well, why don't the three of you come up here and join President Hodge then?
It's my honor again to present 3 certificates of recognition to John Norlinger, Don Schober, and Jim Zell, for all 3 receiving outstanding accomplishments in achieving Locators of the Year for the Miss Utility of Maryland. Again, we want to thank you for your hard work and dedication to your profession that helps make Cecil County a great place to live, work, and play. Thank you very much.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Ryan. We really have a great team in our Department of Public Works, and I think this is a part of an example of the kinds of things that we don't necessarily see every day, but are really important to the functions that we provide for the taxpayers. And I was talking to one of the guys earlier, and they talked about one of their goals is saving taxpayers money. So the more efficient they can be, they don't have to put out the fires, the emergencies, they can be proactive about the services that they provide. So everybody, you guys make my job, the council's job much easier, so thank you very much.
We have many great employees in many departments throughout the entire county. Public Works has quite a few. So thank you very much for your service, and you can now get back to work. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a presentation from the Holland Acres Homeowners Association. And I'll let Councilwoman Brunel introduce the speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Pete Raymond is, I guess, the designated leader, representative of the Holland Acres community. I also just met Pete, I've known Pete for a while, but he's also the Achievement Advancement for the Boy Scouts of America in this region. He does a really good job with that. So go ahead, Pete, and share your concerns with the council.
I have a building microphone, I can talk loud enough.
Oh, no, we want it on the record.
Okay. It's on. It's on. Okay. Good morning, everybody, how are you?
Good morning.
Good. Okay, so I'm here to discuss the Holland Acres Maintenance Corporation issue at hand. We received, and first let me start by saying I represent myself. I don't represent any of the other homeowners, although a lot of them have said, go ahead. Just for now, it's just me. But at the same time, I've received permission to be the collective voice of a lot of members of the development. We received a letter from the Cecil County Department of Public Works back in January, I believe it was, this year, advising the residents that the 2 stormwater management ponds within the development were out of compliance and that we were responsible and that we needed to bring them into compliance and so on and so forth. So, with that, fast forward, we ended up having a public meeting with residents, and we invited members of the Department of Public Works to come speak with us. And I noticed that Mr. Cordell Welling from the DPW is here, he was at that meeting as well. And in this meeting, there was a lot of information dissemination that a lot of folks were completely unaware of regarding where we are today and how we got here. And so what I did was, shortly before the meeting, was I generated a timeline of the events dating back to as early as 1990. So we're going back quite a ways. But the short and long of it is that when Holland Acres was put up for sale, the lots were made available for sale. I was the first one to buy a lot in Section 6 when it was made available, and then also Section 7 came along later. Having been the first person to buy the lot, and then the third person to build, this was in 1991. We occupied our home in September of '91, and then, excuse me, we built our house and lived happily, and still enjoy our neighborhood very much. Lived happily in the belief that when we bought our lot, there were no restrictions. And just for information purposes, I have here from Mason-Dixon Realty letterhead. Down at the bottom says no restrictions, no builder financing. That was the selling point for us to buy that lot. We were coming out of a development in Northeast that we sold. It was a very bad experience with the homeowners association, so we wanted nothing to do with anything that had to do with the homeowners association maintenance work. We wanted nothing to do with any of that. Wanted to live peaceably on our little piece of dirt. And so when Mason-Dixon Realty said there's no restrictions, that's what we were looking for, and we found it.
Oh, that's new to me. I didn't realize you had a document that they're claiming there's no restrictions.
I found this after the May 30th meeting.
I'd like a copy of that,
That's
because
right.
that's an issue
I mean,
that, there needs to be proper disclosure to the homeowners when they're buying into these developments to know what restrictions, what obligations, responsibilities they have.
Absolutely. And when we had there was an impromptu meeting, May 6th, as I recall this year, with the Department of Public Works in front of one of the storm ponds. A lot of folks were down there. And I brought my file folder. Most of this was generated back in 1999 when things hit the fan. So when we had this impromptu meeting in May 6th, the representative at the time, Dan Funk, with the DPW, who'd only been working with the DPW 7 years at that point, so that's his buy. He didn't have this prior knowledge of what was going on. So he was there to basically express, you guys have to bring this pond into compliance. I'm jumping all around, and really, and I don't want to do that. I don't at the same time want to have to go through the entire timeline verbatim, because then we'll be here all morning. We don't want to do that. But I'm going to try and summarize in brief the events. So in '88, the stormwater management plan was adopted by the county commissioners at the time. 1990, I bought the lot in Holland Acres. In '91, the Declaration of Restrictions for Holland Acres, establishing the Holland Acres Maintenance Corporation, was established. I have the corporate bylaws and also the Declaration of Restrictions establishing that corporation as well too. Again, going through the Freedom of Information, getting this information from the Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation. In '92, the Cecil County Department of Public Works sent a letter to Holland Acres Incorporated, which was a corporation set up by Barry Montgomery to develop these lots. That letter went to Barry Montgomery saying that the stormwater pond that you built as designed is acceptable to the county. So at that time, the pond wasn't compliant and built as designed. Nothing happened between 1998 or 92 and 1998. 6 years. Okay, that stormwater maintenance agreement between Holland Acres Incorporated and the Cecil County Commissioners that was accepted in 1988 required that the pond be inspected every 3 years. So if the clock starts at the date of the letter from the county to Holland Acres Incorporated saying the pond is built and in compliance, the first inspection should have taken place in 1995. No inspections took place. First inspection took place in 1998, 6 years after the clock started. At that time, it was only because the neighbor next to the pond complained about the water runoff from the pond. That was in February of '98, nothing happened. In October of '98, again, another letter, or, I'm sorry, another inspection from the DPW about the pond, and then nothing, radio silence. We didn't get another inspection, until, it was November of 2012. So that would constitute really the third inspection, if you will, in 21 years. And the stormwater management requirements of 1988. Now, I understand that there have been many amendments, and then the entire stormwater plan has been replaced with a new one since then. But if you go back to 1988, it required a minimum of an inspection period every 3 years, minimum, and that never took place. So what we have here in effect is you have an entire neighborhood that is looking at 2 ponds that are out of compliance. The DPW wants them into compliance, and I understand that there's a lot of pressure from the state because of WIPs that these ponds have to be brought into compliance. Me personally, I would love for this to be a win-win and a model of success for the county, working with the residents of a development, saying, hey, this is, if we're gonna make all these ponds in the county come into compliance, this is the right way to do it, and we're gonna show you how to do it. All right, but I'm not so sure that we can make that happen yet, because there's still the assignment of responsibility for these ponds. Who owns the ponds? Now, if you go back to the deed restrictions, the ponds are owned by the Holland Acres Maintenance Corporation. Okay, I can see that. It's owned by the Holland Acres Maintenance Corporation. Who represents the Holland Acres Maintenance Corporation? At the time of the formation of that corporation in 1991, I say 91, I'm sorry, 1989, my mistake. Articles of the corporation were established on October 26, '89. At that time, Barry Montgomery was the sole director of the Holland Acres Maintenance Corporation, as well as the vice president of Holland Acres Incorporated to develop the property. From that time, and it says in the bylaws of the corporation that as members, as lots are sold, members are to be brought into the corporation. They were not. In fact, nobody knew about the corporation until 1999, 10 years after it was brought into this, after its inception. 10 years, and nobody had a clue. And so I guess one question could be asked, can a government compel citizens to join an organization they had no prior knowledge of? Because as we all know, that as properties change hands, you know, if the deed restriction is in plain sight at the time that it was created, that makes it obvious. But there are many residents today who will point to the restriction and say, it's not in here, I don't see it, there's nothing in here referencing a maintenance corporation. And I corrected them on that. I said, well, actually, if you look at one singular line item that says portfolio cabinet, lever number, something, something, that's a reference to prior deeds. And if you go far enough back in prior deeds, then you'll find the reference to the requirement to join the maintenance corporation. But I challenge anybody in this room to tell me that when you're 20, 25 years old buying your first property, that you know what you're looking at. When you're looking at a deed, and you're reading that deed, and there's just a reference that doesn't say anything about a maintenance corporation. That's why I say that, you know, when I'm told, and I have documents saying there's no building restrictions, I'm relying on that as being truthful. So there were no building restrictions when I bought this lot, and then come to find out 10 years later that there are in this maintenance corporation. So back to the ownership of the ponds. Who owns the ponds? The maintenance corporation owns the ponds. So fast forwarding in the timeline, January of '99, the Department of Public Works notifies Barry Montgomery, hey, you own these 2 ponds, because at the time, he was the sole director of the maintenance corporation, and he was required to bring the pond into compliance. For the next 2 months, radio silence, nothing from Barry Montgomery. But in March of '99, Barry Montgomery sold the last 2 remaining lots, which is that was the trigger in the restrictions that said he's no longer responsible for these ponds. By selling the last 2 lots, he's now free and clear from the encumbrances of the restriction. He sold those last 2 lots to his cousin, Jack Montgomery, Darnell Limited. Okay. So then in April of '99, his brother Tom writes a letter saying, we don't own any more property, we're not responsible for the ponds off of the homeowner. And so that began the stonewalling of the DPW trying to find answers as to who owns the ponds. And when in June of '99, I had a letter from the Deputy Director of the Department of Public Works, Fred Orr at the time, advising him, Barry Montgomery, hey, because we told you before you sold the last 2 lots, you are still responsible for these ponds, you're still legally liable. The next month, July of '99, I had a letter from Dwight Comey, the county attorney at the time, also advising Barry Montgomery that he's responsible for the ponds and that the county will take legal action. Really? Dwight Comey is his personal attorney. He's gonna sue his boss. That's not gonna happen. And of course, nothing happened after that. And then also in July of '99, we received a letter from Barry Montgomery to all the residents, and this is the first word that anybody had any clue that it was a maintenance corporation. And Barry, in that letter, appointed 3 residents. These are your new directors, take it up with that. And I happen to be one of those 3 people. So I have here a letter as well that we sent, tell you who I sent it to. This was sent to the Department of Assessments and Taxation, Department of Environment, Barry Montgomery, Cecil County Board of Commissioners, Deputy Director of Public Works, Fred Orr, Senator Hoover, Delvin Rudolph, Senator Mikulski, Senator Sarbanes, Representative Gilchrist. We covered them all. And in effect, August 10th, '99, we refused the appointment to become directors of the Holland Acres Maintenance Corporation for a number of reasons, and the reasons are stated very clearly. And that you violated corporate law. You cannot appoint 3 directors. That has to be done by election. As the sole director, he failed to hold annual meetings to set the fees, set the dues, the whole 9 yards. He didn't tell anybody about this maintenance corporation until 10 years after the fact. And the law requires that he's supposed to bring these people in as the lots are sold, and he failed to do that. I don't think that there's any kind of defamation of character here when I say that he was lying to me. He lied to me. I have a letter. He lied to me about this whole thing. Right? So at the same time, through this letter that we sent out, we sent it to the Maryland Department of Assessments, and on it, I have every signature of every resident in the development saying we refuse the appointment to the maintenance corporation until, and we set some conditions, until, and basically come down to bring the ponds into compliance. That hasn't changed. The ponds are not in compliance today. Now, my understanding is as of May, as of this past May, I was told that there was a letter that went out to Barry Montgomery saying, okay, you cut the ponds at some point in time in October of '99, but you still have some conditions that haven't been met. But then I understand there potentially may be more correspondence on top of that. I mean, can you help me with that one? So is there something coming back from Barry saying that, wait a minute, I'll say that because you told me that as long as I do this, that, and the other, I'm off the hook, or if I receive no further word that...
Mr. Raymond, would you keep your comments and your questions to the council?
I certainly can. I apologize. So the issue at hand is that there's an implication out there that Barry Montgomery has, in essence, been let off the hook from the DPW, and that correspondence has been going back and forth between the DPW and Holland Acres Incorporated, which is a Maryland company with Barry Montgomery, but has nothing to do with the residents. And yet, we, the residents, are being told, you have to do this, you have to fix that. No, we did not create this mess. Therefore, I don't believe any of us are responsible for having to fix it. Now, to a person, when the question was asked at the meeting we had on May 30th at the Rising Sun Library, to a person when the question was asked, if the pond is in compliance, will we take care of it? Every person in that room, including myself, raised our hands. Yes, we'll take care of it. We will maintain the ponds after they're brought into compliance. We did not let them go out of compliance. We had no knowledge at the time of the requirements necessary to take care of these ponds. So it's part of our neighborhood. Yes, we want to take care of something in our neighborhood. We want to keep that neighborhood looking nice. But you have a developer that failed in his responsibilities, doing his job. I have a letter from the county stating legally that...
Okay, we've heard this.
Okay.
Now, I guess the question is, what are your solutions? What are you suggesting be done at this time?
Well, I'd like to say something. I think in this instance, we've heard from a few communities that are surprised that they have a responsibility to maintain the stormwater management ponds, and they're being made to bring them into compliance. And it's on their deeds. But we're hearing also, where there's a really big disconnect in this situation, and I'm not sure how many other situations are like this, that the responsibilities of the developer were not met. And DPW, I hope, was not letting them off the hook and putting the burden on the residents prior to the developer meeting their conditions. So I think this is important for us to check this out, see where the disconnect is, and make sure we're not letting developers off the hook. I spoke with Steve Webb, he's the adjoining property owner. He actually took Barry Montgomery to court because there was stormwater runoff coming onto his property. And Dwight Comey was representing Barry Montgomery. And I might be wrong, but, and I'm gonna, disclose that I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure what I've heard is that on the circuit court level, Steve Webb was not able to get the remedy on his property because DPW had signed off and alleviated Barry of the burden of fixing the stormwater management pond. But I'm hearing now that they haven't met the burden. And I'd like to see the letter that you just recently got from, it was DPW saying recently that they hadn't met the conditions.
The letter that I have is from the DPW to Barry that's dated in October of '99.
That was and I thought that was
Saying
interesting.
that acknowledging that he did do work, but that he still had conditions that were not met.
Okay, Mr. Raymond, we're not a judge, we're not a jury,
I understand.
we're not here, we can't decide for your case or your problem.
Are you looking for
But let's go back to my original question. What options and solutions do you believe the county should go forward with? Or give me some ideas on how this should be resolved. Not that we're gonna say, we're not gonna agree or disagree, but I'd like you to express to the public and to the council, what is the answer to this problem? What is the answer to this dilemma?
I understand your point. But first and foremost, as residents, because we didn't have this prior knowledge of the requirements for the maintenance corporation, the residents don't believe, and myself included, that we are liable to do anything at this point in time. So solution would be that because the DPW failed in doing their job, they, or the county, should pursue Barry Montgomery and force compliance that way first and foremost. Secondly, we had a quick demonstration of how fast and efficient the roads crew were when they came and they did some minor clearing at one of the ponds because it was coming too close to the road. The county has the means and the ability to be able to do and clear the ponds, but whether or not the county should do that, I'm not really sure. At that point, we're talking about taxpayer money. There's a difference between this and the Summer Hill issue. Summer Hill, there's questions about who owns the ponds. I don't think there's any ambiguity here. We know who owns the ponds and where the responsibilities lie with respect to ownership of the ponds. But what we're saying is that we're not willing to take acceptance or responsibility for those ponds because we're not responsible for the condition of those ponds as they sit today. When they are,
Do you have any other solutions?
well, solutions, the residents aren't gonna come together and throw money into a bucket and say fix it, and then pay for it out of pocket. We're talking about a lot of money, and we're not willing to do it because we're not responsible. It's all about taking responsibility. If the county were to do it, or if the county were to take Barry Montgomery and Holland Acres Incorporated to court and force compliance, and then when in compliance to a person, everybody raise their hand, they'll take care of the pond after that, not before.
Do you have an attorney representing you or your?
Not yet.
Your group?
Not yet, and we don't wanna go there. That's why I said earlier, if we can be a model of, this is how it's supposed to be done, we would love to do that. If we can keep this thing out of the court system, that would be even better. I mean, if the county's gonna spend any kind of resources on anything to fix this problem, it would be better, to me, at least in my opinion, I'm okay with spending the taxpayer dollars to fix that problem one and done and over with and move on, as opposed to wasting it in the court system. So.
Do any of the other council members have any questions?
Well, I have a statement that, we're elected and, we represent the residents, taxpayers. And if there's an abuse of power like this,
Abuse of power?
well,
Who's the power?
I would say DPW. If they're a Levy or Dwight Coney at the time, if he's the county attorney, but also representing Barry Montgomery, and he didn't recuse himself, then, we need to make sure that the taxpayers are properly represented and getting a fair, representation from our county, representatives. If there's anything Cordell Wyland would like to add to what he said.
I don't wanna get into a discussion or a debate about this issue. This is not the time or the place to resolve this issue. And with all due respect to your suggestions, this sounds very complicated. It certainly has a long history with a lot of different communications and a lot of different levels. And at the end of the day, I don't think that this matter has been fully vetted by our legal counsel or the Public Works or whatever. I think that all the information is being pulled out and put on the table for discussion. And I have not heard from Public Works or the county where our final position is. And I would hope that you and the homeowners association keep an open mind and not be absolute, because at the end of the day, you may find that you'll spend more legal fees fighting an effort and you'll get nothing done other than paying a whole bunch of lawyers to get nothing done at the end of the day, and we may all be lose-lose and not get the problem solved. So I would hope that the Department of Public Works, our county executive, with the assistance of the legal county attorney, will come to a conclusion that's agreeable to everyone, and that would be a win-win. So I hope that you don't dig your heels in too deep, especially if you haven't gotten legal advice.
Well, the notion of digging my heels in, for me personally, I've dug them in because I've been going, and I say me, I've dug my heels in only because I've been going back and forth over who's going to bear the cost of this. Now, if I bore a responsibility because of something that I failed to do, I'm willing to step forward and do
With
what
all
I have
due
to do.
respect, you failed to obtain an attorney when you purchased the property. There's no doubt, you made it clear to me, I know enough about real estate.
I beg
Wait a
your
minute,
pardon.
in your deed, did you get title insurance? And in the title insurance, it said that there was a reference to a homeowner's agreement, or you mentioned on live or something, the title to your property was encumbered by some deed restriction. And unfortunately, you didn't have good legal advice at that time of closing, and you admitted that you were young, you admitted that this happens.
Wisdom comes with age, with everybody. I'm
Yes,
sure you didn't
and that's
have
why
this
you need to
right.
hire a consultant, an attorney, when you have a closing, if you're not sure what you're doing, so that they can explain to you what's on the title.
You're ignoring the fact that.
I am not ignoring the fact.
You're ignoring the fact
We're
that he's
getting
pointed
off.
out, no, that he has pointed out that the developer had responsibilities before it was turned over to the maintenance corporation. It wasn't done properly, and he's brought that out in his chronology of events, and I can send you a copy of this.
This is very complicated, I'm not suggesting.
It's not complicated,
It
he's
is
got it
complicated.
clearly laid
It's-
out.
I don't think that there is a clear.
You'd like it to be complicated, it's not complicated.
The only thing I take exception to is when you're telling me that I failed to get an attorney in good representation at the age of 22 when I bought my property. Okay, I admit, at youth, I didn't know everything, and I still don't. And I'm sure that we've all made those kind of mistakes, but I take exception to being told I failed.
Okay, I would have suggested that you should have had an attorney so he could explain to you all those encumbrances that would have been on the deed at the time you purchased the property.
Even if
Anyway.
there are encumbrances, there is a responsibility that the developer had before it was turned over to the residents.
I am not,
Correct?
I am
There
certainly not suggesting that other people could have done a better job. And this is something that has changed over time, that people were not well informed of homeowners associations and other obligations and other responsibilities, and that's a problem.
I'm proposing,
And
if
I'm not-
it's complicated to you, Mr. Hodge, then we need to have a workshop that we find out where the breakdown in communication did come from. He's brought up a lot of good points about how this failed to play out the way it was intended.
I am certainly willing to have a workshop after the county executive and the Department of Public Works comes to a conclusion on where they believe this matter should be.
Why does it have to be
And
out?
because I think there's a lot of information that everyone is mulling over and will reach a conclusion eventually.
I think it's
And I
important that
think this is, in my opinion, this is in limbo. And I don't know that the county public works or the county executive has come to a final conclusion, and I'm not willing to interfere with this. The commissioners at the time put together this tremendous flow chart.
Mr. Hodge,
Tremendous
who are
flow
you
chart.
representing? If a constituent comes to us and he's concerned with the process,
Okay, so you wanna step in and get in the middle of the process without it reaching conclusion.
I want to participate in this process.
Okay, I don't think that's the role of the council at this time. At this time, and when
There
and
is
if, when and if.
That we need to propose to protect residents, to make sure that the developer does what they're responsible for doing, then we need to do this now. And while we're in the process of going through all the stormwater management laws in the county and putting, enforcing this on the residents or the developers.
Okay, if you want to take some action, you have to make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we set up a workshop for next week with DPW. And I would invite Pete Raymond, because this is such a good example of how the breakdown in communication happened, to address the weaknesses in this process in assigning responsibility where it belongs for the maintenance of the stormwater management funds. And then you say, is there a second?
Is there a second?
I'll second that, and I guess we'll go into discussion, and this really isn't an extraordinary circumstance. I think I just came to the attention myself over the weekend. There's a similar situation up in Rising Sun, not Summer Hill, I believe it's in Maple Heights, development there. I think we had all received an email on this, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Montgomery is also the developer in question there as well, so.
About 11 years ago, there were 110 homeowners associations that were defunct. That means that these people didn't have a clue. So that you're not alone in this. And I would suggest that not just Mr. Raymond, but that any interested homeowners group come to that workshop session, because we may be able to enlighten whose responsibilities
If
it is.
If I may, the idea of a second meeting workshop, so we can actually sit down and talk about specifics for information purposes, not for rendering judgment, but for information purposes, a separate meeting would be ideal, because then we can actually sit down and talk about and
Yes.
reference the specific issues that are associated with the documentation that I have. So that way, at least then, we can try and gain a legal
Right.
opinion on the path forward.
We have a motion on the floor.
I'm sorry, yes, please finish.
Right, okay, there is a motion on the floor, and as far as discussion, I'm not sure that we're prepared to talk about this, and I certainly do not want to get into, in the flow chart that the commissioners put together, did not put in a space for the commissioners or the council to be a deciding factor on the outcome of the problem. And I would prefer to, before we have this meeting, to make sure that the Public Works Department, who is assigned the responsibility of moving the stormwater management facility issue forward, is prepared to come before us with some recommendations on what they think should be done to change that flow chart, if any. And I think it may be premature to have a meeting and just, right. I'd like, if we're gonna have a meeting, let's have a meeting where we can come to some conclusions on the future, on how we're gonna move forward. When I said that your situation is unique, it is unique, but there's a lot of people in the same boat that have similar issues. That not everyone has all the correspondence and the documentation and the records and the refusal to take it over, so forth and so on. But I would prefer to not schedule a meeting next week, but talk to the Public Works Department, the county attorney, and have a meeting when they're ready to have the meeting, rather than just have a gripe session by a whole bunch of homeowners coming in and saying, we're not happy about this effort. We want to come to a conclusion on a win-win, as you suggested, where we can have some solutions, because the county doesn't want to have a war with our citizens. The county doesn't want to have a fight and make a lot of hard feelings. The commissioners, the council members, the county executive doesn't want to make everybody mad, okay? We want to come to a conclusion where we can meet the mandates of the state in terms of solving the stormwater issues. But can you give us a little more time rather than next week?
No, well, no.
All right. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Yes, there's further discussion. And I think that bringing the concerns to the table is a way that we can address the problems. And this is just a matter of coming up with solutions. We need to do this sooner than later.
I don't think it's the council's responsibility to come up with solutions. I think it's the Department of Public Works. I think it's clearly, I think that they came and talked to the council or the commissioners. I was out there, I don't remember exactly when. And they had a plan to go out to the homeowners with brochures and how to fix things. So that there is a plan out there somewhere, I think.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I was a part of, I remember the whole scenario of the letters being sent out. We're seeing the gaps in the shortcomings right now. And I agree, we're not the ones that will come up with the solutions, it's gonna be DPW. But it's our responsibility to identify and ask, what solutions are you coming up with? And it's our responsibility to be informed.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
I think that this is a very common problem that you're encountering right now. I mean, many developers have done precisely what's happening here. There wasn't obvious or very accurate disclosure of the responsibilities of homeowners. They were not basically mandated. They were told to do such and such things, but there was no enforcement activity, so consequently, these things just went undone.
So consequently, the DPW didn't do their job.
Well, I'm not going to say that because I don't know what their responsibility was. I mean, I'm not versed in these laws, but in many cases, these developers have basically subdivided properties, sold off the lots. Once the lots were sold, they essentially walked away. Now, obviously, you've indicated that you did not know that you were responsible for this. You've also indicated that the developer was responsible to give this to you in an up-to-date and what do you call it, an operational, compliant position.
Correct.
And you knew nothing about this at this point. Now, have you spoken to Mr. Montgomery personally about this?
Why would I want to talk to him? Why would I need to?
Well, apparently this is going to be your responsibility.
My letter dated October or August of
I
99
understand.
told him, basically, this is the responsibility. Your batteries are dead in this, by the way. So
I'm not holding fault with you.
Mr.
I don't
Massey?
understand.
Okay, time out. Hold. Time out.
Are you saying that
You're out of
that's
order.
not recorded?
You're out of order.
it's not recorded.
This happened last.
Okay.
I tend to think my voice is loud enough that some microphone is probably
Yes.
picking me up,
I agree.
but this one is not, so.
Okay. There's been a motion to have a meeting next Tuesday, a workshop meeting to discuss this issue. There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye.
I'm very much in favor of having a meeting. I think we need more time to basically
Okay, this
Collect
is
the
discussion.
facts.
You're either for or against meeting next week, yes or no?
I'm against next week.
Joyce?
I'm against next week, but I'm for a meeting.
Okay.
Can I have a more definitive timeline when you would be willing to have the meeting?
When-
Because we need to have it not too far out to.
No, I don't want to.
I'll vote for a meeting when the
Ladies
public
and
works.
gentlemen, respectfully, you're asking me to.
Mr. Remy, you're out of order.
Okay.
We're having a discussion here. I'm okay with a meeting when the public works is ready to talk about this issue and, have discussion about solutions and changes to the process. And I'm assuming that will be within weeks, not months or years. This is not something of critical nature. No one is going to go to jail. There isn't any public safety issue that I know of on this matter that I'm aware of. Now, I suggest that we can come to a reasonable conclusion without jumping to meetings prematurely.
Mr. McCarthy, would you be willing to wait 3 weeks?
I'd like to do it as soon as possible, but I think that we probably should get a lot of legal input into this. I mean, I think there's a lot of issues here.
Yeah.
Number one is the primary issue is the developer and homeowners, and I'm not saying who's at fault. And then all of a sudden DPW is forced to be I guess, the policing agency. Now, I don't know anything about how they got pulled into this. Apparently recently with all these web implementations, this has all come to light.
I think
There
that.
was another meeting at the Rising Sun Library, which I attended just for a brief period, and it was, the answers that they gave, showed that it was a minor technicality that they were attributing that the developer might have, been alleviated, and that's in question, really. So there was more information, and I think this work session is to bring us up to speed on this situation, because it's such a good example. That we don't necessarily have to have the remedies at this time, but at least to bring us up to assess where the shortcomings are in this, in this process.
I have to tell you that the county commissioners several years ago knew ahead of time. We knew ahead of time that there were shortcomings. We knew ahead of time that there was going to be defunct homeowners associations. We knew ahead of time that many home buyers knew that they didn't know it. The problem was they didn't know that they were signing into a homeowners association. We knew that. This is not news. This is not news to me at all. I was a county commissioner. Excuse me, it's not finished. We knew as county commissioners that there was going to be many issues with this problem. The planning department knew this was going to be a problem. The planning commission, who worked on this for a long time, knew that this was going to be a problem. And so here it is today. It is still a problem. And I want not to rush into, not in my opinion, the council's role to rush into individual problems until the Public Works Department and the county attorney and the county executive have worked this through the best that they can. And so I'll make a motion that we have a meeting to update the council and the homeowners association on the progress of the stormwater management upgrades and any solutions for changing our flow chart that we have. The county has a flow chart that everyone should know what it is. It's a humongous mess of where we go from here to there. And I don't want to get into the devil of details of your particular problem because it could involve litigation. But I will suggest that we can try to work out amendments to the flow chart if it's reasonable. I also believe strongly that that's my motion, to have a meeting within the next month to discuss this issue in general. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second to have a meeting to discuss the updating of the stormwater management upgrades. And to add to my discussion about this issue is that we are not, the council is not the entity to be getting in the middle of this problem, nor is it to be a judge or a jury on these actions. And this is gonna require a tremendous amount of legal maneuvering by the homeowners association and the county to come to a conclusion that is reasonable. And so, again, we don't want to piss off every homeowners association in all of Cecil County. We need to find a solution that we can get this job done and meeting the mandates that the state has put in front of us. So, is there any discussion about the motion?
Yes, so you're saying it will be within the month?
No, yes, let's say in July.
30 calendar days.
Okay, if it's
Sometime in
within,
July.
if it's within 30 days, I'll support that motion.
It'll be sometime in July. We'll have to work with the executive to get it done.
Okay, and, also, what was that? There's a responsibility by this legislative branch to be aware of what the issues are. And if there is any legislation that we should be proposing, or if, somebody should come to us and propose legislation on an issue we have in the county, we should be informed of, these issues. Now, it sounds like you're familiar with this whole, all the shortcomings in this whole process. But there still are, I think, issues that have not been, properly dealt with by DPW. And I do know, that, it's been told to me that political will, a lot of times, kept the enforcement, of, the ponds being maintained by, when developers were being told to do certain things. So, I am happy to hear that you're willing to have this meeting within a month, so that we can at least get the issues out on the table. And really, the residents need to know what the responsibility of the developer was. So, you know, if they're taking ownership and it wasn't theirs to take, because,
Well, there's state law that,
we'll learn about that at the meeting.
well, it's there.
And so I wanna see all of these, and then, once we gather this information, we'll have something to give to the homeowners and to the residents. So,
Mr.
and-
Brown, do you have any discussion on the motion?
I do wanna point out too that Mr. Raymond probably has a certain time schedule that he would only be available.
I work for a living.
Yeah, I understand. And, so we might have to keep that into account too, or figure out a way just to get his input.
Okay, I wanna make it very clear, this meeting is not to rehash Holland Acres Homeowners Association specific issues. It's not, certainly we can talk about the dilemma, the problems, the shortcomings of the process in the past, but we're not having a meeting about your unique problems and the issues that you're having. This is a generalized meeting that applies to any and all homeowners associations.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So, recognizing that, and that's fine, so with the documentation that I have,
That you'll have to work with the Department of Public Works with your documentation and try to convince them of your solution to this problem.
I'm gonna call it information discovery. So, this meeting that you're talking about would be an ideal time, not necessarily to talk about Holland Acres, but information discovery that it's probably standard verbiage and written in a lot of different leads. So is that, is there a benefit in bringing that information to the meeting?
No, we don't, I don't want to get into specifics of your case. You need to work, the specifics of your case needs to be worked directly with the Public Works Department
Well,
and the county attorney.
but I think that's what I'm
We
getting at.
just had that meeting in May.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the examples that we have here are the issues that need to be addressed. And
Right.
are we gonna be having this meeting down here to where it's recorded, that other, homeowners would be able to hear, maybe there's an issue that applies to their homeowners
Ms.
association?
Parker, do you have anything to add?
What were the results of your
Mr.
meeting?
Hodge, I asked if we were gonna have that meeting down here, so it could be recorded.
I don't have a problem having a meeting
Okay.
here. Sir.
What were the results of your May meeting? I mean, was a determination made on any regard?
Before I answer that question, do you want to resolve the issue of the motion and the second and all that before
Sure. Okay, there's been a motion and a second to have a meeting with the council, Public Works Department, and any homeowners association that would like to come and have a discussion and update about the stormwater management facility update or upgrades, and to discuss, I don't want to say shortcomings, but if there's any amendments or corrections that we need to make to our flow chart to accommodate the shortcomings that we may have failed to consider. We'll have that discussion. And the meeting should be scheduled within the month of July. So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Okay, any question?
One question? Was there a determination made when you had this meeting?
Not really. What we came away with was, DPW had, specific information that I gave them. Honestly, I don't recall if I gave it to them in print, but I do know that I gave it to them, electronically, along with the documentation that I have here. Gave them the information, they would go back, talk over with the director, and, but there was no definitive, okay, this is what we do. There were no action items that came out of the meeting. So that's really about all I can tell you right now as a result of that meeting. But it was a good information exchange session, if you will.
Mr. Raymond, thanks for coming in. I hope that you continue that communication with the Department of Public Works. I hope that you can negotiate a fair conclusion to this matter that is a win-win. So thank you for coming.
I have one last thing. Just very quickly. The Holland Acres Maintenance Corporation is not a homeowners association. It's very significant between the two. So, in future reference, I just would ask that you refer to it as the Maintenance Corporation, not the homeowners association, please.
I'm speaking in generalities.
I understand, but I just wanted to make that a point because the stress, everybody's stress level tends to go up to 10 points when you call it a homeowners association. We're not telling people what color shutters they're allowed to have, except that we do the dangerous one. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here from the Public Works Department to bring this up to date on recycling?
That will be held next week on July 2nd. I'm sorry.
Mr. Massey, can you have that monitor, what it refers to?
The recycling contract?
Yes, so that we can review it before the meeting.
Sure.
So item number 4 has been rescheduled.
Yes, for July 2nd.
Okay, item number 5, State Community Development Block Grant. There's been a modification. Is Mr. Les Hall here?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hall, you want to come up to the lectern and explain the situation and what we need to fix it?
Council President Hall, if I may, can I introduce Mr. Hall? I'm here for this matter, actually.
Okay.
Provide a brief introduction. We have Winston Robinson from Finance to provide some support. The gist of the assignment that we intend to present to the council next Tuesday for introduction is essentially to clean up a transaction that occurred in effect back in, I want to say 2004, but was never consummated on paper. The essential background is that in July 1995, the county, through the Department of Community Development, was able to provide a loan to Boone Nurseries. And for a number of years, the county handled the collection of the loan proceeds and serviced the loan. In 2000 and 2001, through 2001, the state of Maryland actually had a loan servicing company step in and service the loan. And how this worked was a certain amount of the proceeds of the loan repayment initially came to the county to set up what I believe is a revolving loan fund for economic development, which is still in effect. Once those funds were fully vested in the county, or the county's portion of those funds were fully vested, the payments then began to be sent to the state by the loan servicing agent, and essentially in 2004 the county transferred or assigned its rights under the loan to the state of Maryland. That never happened on paper. As we all know, certain formalities like this need to have a paper transaction in order to provide significant or legal meaning to the act that was taken. So recently, Mr. Hall has been working with Economic Development, Department of Finance, and my office to consummate the transfer, the assignment of the note, the promissory note, the loan agreement, the deed of trust, and a corporate guarantee to the state of Maryland, which will essentially tie the ends of this transaction. The county certainly, I don't think, is interested in carrying, trying to carry this to get on its books or be responsible for the collection or handling of loan proceeds, which are now going to the state. That's kind of the 35,000 foot view. I'm going to ask Mr. Robinson if he has anything to add, and then I'll turn it over to Les Hall, who may be able to provide a more thorough or fill in the gaps on my basic historical presentation.
Yeah, I'll just say that back in 2004, and Les will have more information, because the county's involvement terminated, and this all relates to grant funds that were used to provide a loan, that were used under the grantor's provision to provide funding to the county for the revolving loan. Essentially, at the time of 2004, as noted in a footnote in the financials at that time, the funding originated from DHCD, and they had assumed collection at that time. The transfer of that responsibility resulted in the elimination of the receivable and liability accounts on the county books, but had no impact on revenues or expenditures.
Mr. Hall, thank you.
Sure, my pleasure. Good morning, President Hodge and members of the council. Yes, I am here this morning to hopefully facilitate closure of a project that was initiated in 1995 and that was in fact closed out by the state, which means it was audited and determined to have met its objectives in approximately 2000. The project involved a community development block grant to Cecil County, specifically for the purpose of a loan from the county to Moon Nurseries to facilitate Moon Nurseries' expansion project, which involved job creation in Cecil County and also the establishment of a presence in the form of a facility in Cecil County by Moon Nurseries. All of those things happened. They happened very effectively. And in fact, the county and the state worked together very effectively to expedite that outcome. With projects like these, there comes a point after the audit and performance evaluation where we effectively close it out. Basically, we say to the county, job well done, you no longer have responsibility for this. This particular project was unique because it had two distinct components. It had a grant to the county, and then it had a loan from the county to the business entity. When we closed out the project, we closed out the grant from the state to the county. However, and I would acknowledge that this was an oversight on our part, we failed to close out or transfer the actual loan documents for a loan that was still outstanding from the county to the state was still in the name of the county, okay? And it needs to be in the name of the state for us to execute this particular transaction. And it was at that time that we realized, well, you know, we have closed it out. County no longer has any responsibility. County is not at risk in any way, but we did not ask the county to document the transfer of the loan from the county to the state. And that's what we need to do at this time.
What instrument do we need to execute to facilitate this transfer?
It is,
There's gonna be several, there's gonna be the note, the assignment of the note, obviously, assignment of the loan agreement, assignment of the deed of trust. There will be a new corporate guarantee agreement that Moon is going to execute because Moon dissolved its Pennsylvania corporation, which had been the original corporate guarantee, and formed a new Maryland entity. So the new Maryland entity will be the corporate guarantee. So that'll be executed and assigned to the state. We'll need to do an affidavit of lost promissory note, because I do not believe the original can be located.
What process does the council need to follow to?
The council would need to pass a resolution authorizing the transaction, and then the executive would sign off.
And have you prepared that resolution yet?
I have. There's a draft that I provided to Mr. Massey this morning, again, that would be in your packets for next week.
Okay, is there any objection from the council members to, put this resolution on our agenda for July 2nd?
Not any objection, but I would like to have a summary, and we need to have summaries like this in our packet, because when we go back and we research an issue, if we don't have any information in our packet, we'll listen to the audio. It's much easier to have all of this information contained. I'm a little concerned about the lost promissory note. I understand there's no obligation from the county, but I just seems like a lot of information being presented to us right now, and if I would have had the time to look over this, I may not have had any question because it was right before me. Right
Well,
now, I don't, just.
if I may, the promissory note may not actually be lost, but please keep in mind that this was a transaction that was executed in the mid-1990s. So as a consequence of the process of record storage and the transfer of records from active files to retention, it's very difficult to locate original documents at this point in 2013. So, you know, we have looked, and we don't actually have this file in our shop anymore. Long ago, we went to records retention. The county looked. I dare suggest that they probably stored it as well. And I just don't know that you'd be able to find the original promissory note, and particularly in the case of the county, because we said to them, this is no longer your matter, and we effectively closed it out.
In the resolution, we'll have a short synopsis of the history and why we're doing what we're doing, so the public and others will know why we're doing what we're doing.
It does, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hall, for coming to visit with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Okay, last week, Councilwoman Bowlby brought up the request for a letter of support for the Friends of Mount Harmon Plantation. I assume that Mr. Massey prepared a draft letter for the council to approve. Has everyone read the letter? Does anyone have any objection to the letter that was supplied to us? If not, after the meeting, we'll sign off on it. Okay.
I would like to have a copy sent to Paige as well, Paige Howard at Mount Harmon, so that she knows that we did it.
All right, is there any further discussion on that matter?
Well, I just think it's a very beneficial project, and it draws the, community in,